Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Happy Friday afternoon or evening or next day or whenever you watch this. Not that it matters too much. I mean, some of this stuff I talk about is timely. Some of it is important to the day. But occasionally it's an ongoing thing. I feel like half my show these days is dealing with new talking points and kind of batting them down or giving them some kind of perspective so that, you know, when you're told to clutch your pearls about something, you might want to tap the brakes on that pearl clutching a little bit because it's not quite what they're selling you. And then other things are this kind of ongoing line of BS that is just frigging nonstop. And before I get into it, I would like to remind you to tap that like. It helps us as the stream goes on to draw more eyeballs and attention as I attempt to grow this show, because I think I do give a perspective, certainly, and a buttress of information around a lot of these topics that you don't see anywhere else. I'm doing my best, and I will say it's to some degree difficult in this hunting and pecking to kind of find stuff that I know will ultimately it won't just be a repetition of the same kind of talking points and things you're seeing elsewhere, partly because of what I'm pushing back on isn't kind of the total mainstream of things, but also because I know our dear friends over at Midas Touch and other places are doing the Lord's work, going after certain things. So I feel like I trust them to do it, but there'll occasionally be a talking point or something that comes up or a story that TYT will massacre or Jimmy Dore will massacre in basically the same way with the same result. And I got to kind of knock it back into its lane so that it doesn't careen into oncoming traffic, I guess is the idea. And there's a person that, you know, is sort of a reoccurring issue on this show. And it wouldn't be such a thing if he didn't have an ever-growing sort of, albeit loosely false, army of viewers and an enormous fucking audience, or at least the illusion of which is really all you need to get mainstream media attention and respect, whether you fucking deserve it or not. Now, here he is. Well, here's part of him. And the title of his clip today is classic. I mean, again, the business model of Rusty Trombone, a.k.a. Russell Brand, a.k.a. asshole, always on brand, is this constant. It is hippie Alex Jones. That's what he's going for. He's going for hippie Alex Jones. As the Alex Jones InfoWars empire dies off, kind of like the USSR in '91, it breaks into small something stands. So occupying Fearistan, a former satellite nation of InfoWars, is hippie Alex Jones. And these days, now granted, 6 million subscribers, and on this one, 51,000 views. So does that mean that millions of his viewers are actually fake? Because no matter how many subscribers he's got, he never tips up into the regular viewership. They've added, here's how it would work for me. I'm just thinking, let's just game this out before we jump into this bullshit. By the way, the name of this video, he's not even trying anymore, is They Are Watching You. I always feel like somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy. Oh, it's been a fear that's been around since the 80s. When Rockwell did his best Michael Jackson impersonation in between Michael Jackson albums, I suppose. You know, you can't just wait for the next Michael Jackson album out. You got to come out. You got to have somebody else to, you know, throw in stuff that sound alikes, you know, in the middle. It's an old record label trick. By the way, Hype Train, almost level 2 on Twitch, twitch.tv/HALSparks. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime to subscribe. So why don't you do it? I know, because you only get one subscription a month and you're already subscribed to somebody else. Fine. Maybe somebody will gift you one. And if they do, then thank them vociferously on my behalf and on yours. Anyways. So, back to this dickhead. So there will always be money to be made in the OK Doomer crowd. this will, the fear of the future. I mean, like road preachers and false prophets have been building empires, mansions on a hill for centuries on the idea of the end is coming. There's a they out there that wants to kill you. I'm the only one standing in between you and them. I'm the only person who will tell you about it and help me build this mansion on a hill. Now, granted, if you try to run up the hill and escape it, if it ever does come to an end, I'm going to have the doors locked. And fuck you. But in the interim, you can believe that I'm just a good old wood chopping hippie in a giant $14 million mansion with an $85 million net worth and a huge investment in all the FANG stocks and oil stocks. But we already looked at his holdings before. But let's jump into this, because this is, if I feel like I'm retreading things sometimes just because of the news cycle being the way it is, and I guess some people just don't listen to me, that there is no Hunter Biden laptop, so they're just going to keep hammering this bullshit, and I'm going to have to keep knocking it down, whack-a-mole style. I suppose this guy runs out of shit to talk about occasionally, and it has to just be, it's like a best of. Let's pick our two biggest fears and just do a segment on it. So here we go. This is They Are Watching You. So close your drapes. Pull up your pants, or I don't know, put them down. Like, here's the thing. If they're going to be watching me, they're going to have a price to pay. So, I feel like if I'm going to be spied on, at the very least, I should work out so they have something to look at. I would feel guilty if they were like, But anyways, here we go. This is hippie Alex Jones with They Are Watching You.
Used for vaccine passports.
Hold on, wait. Hold on. Hey, and scene.
Hey, do you remember during the pandemic when they said that the technology
they
used for vaccine passports would never be normalised and utilised in ordinary situations and become part of a social credit score system where everyone would have a digital ID and CBDCs would become normalised? Well,
by the way, they never said all of that shit in one fell swoop and kind of created this giant no one shall be able to buy or sell things without the mark of the beast kind of collaboration. But so CBDCs, of course, these central bank digital currencies. This is Glenn Beck's territory. He loves this shit. Never mind the fact that a couple of weeks ago, if you'll recall, the Fed, the U.S. Fed, did a pilot program, and after a few weeks went, nah, fucking sucks. It's terrible. I mean, we can use it for digital exchanges between banks, but it's totally fucking useless for people. Debit cards are enough. And they were like, nah, we'll blow it off. And of course, when's the last time you had to use your vaccine passport to go anywhere or do anything? Now that there's a vaccine and there's enough people who are vaccinated and the vaccine is an option and there's treatments, it's one of those things. Like, this asshole is like, if they make me wear a raincoat just because it's raining, they're going to make me wear a raincoat every fucking where.
Well, guess what? That was a lie. It is happening.
All right. Digital ID and CBDCs. First of all, there's a difference between like vaccine passports and having your driver's license available on your phone, which, by the way, has more security cues in it than just your fucking pocket. Let me show you something. May I? Can I? Before this asshole gets off of it's called what was it called? Something. There's a little device. Oh yes, I know. Shut up. Oh, be quiet. Hiking. Hold on. It's called. There's a little device I want to show you guys, and this might be why. Yeah, okay, here it is. It's the Flipper Zero. Let me show you this guy. Here might be why. Might be why they're looking at more complicated. Here you go. This is fun. Flipper Zero. Multi-tool device for hackers. You can buy it right now. It kicked ass and took names on Kickstarter. It's about $169. And, well, what does it do? By the way, it raised $4 million, almost $5 million, pledged of their $60,000 goal, 37,000 backers buying this thing. What is a Flipper Zero? It's a portable multi-tool for pen testers and hardware geeks. In a toy-like body, it loves to explore the digital world around you, radio protocols, access control systems, hardware, and more. The main idea behind the Flipper Zero is to combine all the research and penetration hardware tools that you could need on the go in a single case. Out of the box, Flipper is filled with features and skills, but also is open source and customizable, so you can extend its functionality in whatever way you like. The Flipper, it can dummy and replicate UTF security tokens, so those little pass cards you use to get in and out of a secure building, RFID cards, readers, and emulators. So any of your credit cards or any ID card that has an RFID chip in it, it can emulate it and use it. NFC, it can store all your NFC cards. Micro SD card, you can store stuff on there, obviously. A sub 1 gigahertz transceiver, which acts as a radio remote, so you can spoof remote controls anywhere. So you walk into a store or whatever, you can have already, let's say it's a series of types of televisions, you can spoof the remote control if you have one, or just buy one and spoof it, or even use the one right there, spoof a channel, and then walk into a Best Buy and change all the screens to do something. It can do bad USB, which means you hook it up to a computer and it will auto load a piece of malware into something that of whatever you want. So you can download what are called payloads on here. And because it acts like a USB cable that's attached to the system itself, like a known hardware drive as opposed to a device. Like, it can download something through Wi-Fi into it, a bigger program into stuff. It's an IR transceiver, so people use it to open gates in parking garages. And one of the big things is this is fun. Can I show you let me show you this real quick. Meanwhile, this asshole thinks that, I'm sure he doesn't know about it. I was about to say he probably, thinks it's no big deal, or it's okay if individuals can fuck with your life at random, but if the government does it, it's wholly different. That's the idea. So it's the same thing. He probably believes the same thing about technology that the far right believes about guns. We need these guns to protect ourselves from a tyrannical government. Well, motherfucker, what if you become the tyrant? What am I supposed to do? What if you little king shit decide to walk into a store and say, I declare this land mine, bloom. I get to take your life at random. That's not tyranny. All right. So I don't have any safeguards against tyranny in that situation. Okay, hold on one second. Flipper Zero Tesla. Since we're all having fun. Let's see. I'll find one that's fairly simple. Here you go. Hold on.
One of the first things you need to do when you get a Flipper Zero is to modify it to open up a Tesla charge port. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go into sub gigahertz, go to our saved, and there we can see Tesla. We're going to send it. And there you go.
So they can do this to any sitting Tesla.
Your charge port is not safe, even in the Costco parking lot.
Yeah.
Ooh, a red one.
Yeah, just random as shit. That little device can double what's on any of your cards. Now, there are digital ID cards for, your license plate has a metal magnetic strip on it, and you have to physically read that. But some of the other countries, they have RFID cards that mix with your driver's license or your state ID, and those can just be dummied. And but by that little device, which costs $169. Yeah, and that's just, by the way, version 1. So let's see if this asshole is, and then CBDCs. We'll talk about that in a second, I suppose.
Hello there, you 6 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this voyage towards truth and freedom.
It's good to get your lies out early, I think. You know what I mean? Just like fucking, why couch your bullshit? Just state like unabashed. I mean, it had to. What chapter of Mein Kampf is that? I've never read it, but I'm sure he could tell me.
The mainstream media are not your friends.
They're not your friends. They want you to get vaccinated and not die because they want to sell you things forever and ever. I, on the other hand, am just kind of collecting funds until I can move into a house on a hill and watch the end of the world.
You dumb, dead, and in chains. Look around.
Why would you chain a dead person? They want you dumb, dead, and in chains. First of all, the intellectual capacity of a corpse is the same no matter how smart they were when they were alive. Also, there is, so far, unless you're a prop master on The Walking Dead, any reason whatsoever to chain up a dead person. So maybe it's dumb, in chains, and then dead. That would at least make sense. Hi, stupid. You mind if I put this on your ankle for a second just to see if it fits? Fuck, how'd this happen? Blam, right? I suppose, is that the...
Around you, open your eyes. You don't need me to tell you that. Turn on your TV.
You know what? You're right. Fuck this. I'm just going to move on. Never mind. Okay.
Look at what they're telling you. They're telling you that you need to give up your power and allow power to be continually centralized. They're trying to turn...
Are they? Is that what you get when you watch CNN? Really? What part? The part where I should vote, probably? The part where CNN has Democrats and Republicans on acting like their arguments are the same?
Us against one another continually. We have a spiritual challenge on our hands as well as...
Well, it's certainly not an intellectual one, Russell.
It's a political one. It can be handled in our own hearts, but it also has to be handled out in the world, in the streets also.
Yeah, not him, though. You, obviously. He's not going out to the streets. Last time he did that, he stripped down naked and everyone saw his little Andrew taint.
Incarnation, what we are addressing is the introduction of digital IDs and central bank...
Okay, and again... Do you think he gives a shit about the magnetic strip on your driver's license? Which has your driving record on it and stats to make sure that it's actually you? Because I'll give you an example. Hold on, real quick. Let's see if I can find it even. Give me 1 second for this to come up. I have a lot of... see if this commit. Yeah. Let's see if I can find this. Hold on, back up here. I think this is the one. Yeah, so, I don't know if we'll see if this, I'll hide the audio on this real quick. But when Ted Bundy was on the run for 40 days before he murdered a bunch of women, I don't know who this dude is. This guy's outside. He got pulled over and arrested, and they didn't know who the fuck he was. Yeah, they had no idea. You know why? Because he wouldn't tell them. He refused to. And at that time, driver's license didn't even have fucking pictures on them. So thank Ted Bundy for one of the reasons why we have pictures on our driver's license. And what's the fucking difference? What's the difference between you having a picture on your driver's license and there being a digital version of the picture on your driver's license? For fuck's sake. All right, let's see. I'm curious.
Banking digital currencies. Both
banking digital currencies. Unlike Bitcoin, which is all freedom.
Things that, I don't know, needn't necessarily be awful, but you can bet your ass they will be. We'll get...
Right, yeah. They don't have to be bad, but we'll make them bad, because otherwise, what is he selling to 6.12 million subscribers?
This in more detail. Let's go. Last month, The Times reported that governments globally are on the precipice of major adoption of digital ID. The European Union is preparing for the 2024 release of its digital ID wallet, which would enable EU residents to store digital identity credentials such as national ID, driving license, and bank account details.
It would allow them to do that? It would enable them to do their bank account? What if they don't want to put their bank account information in? Oh, they don't have to? Fucking hell.
Let's have a look at them announcing this plan to turn us all into data and manageable, little, humorless, faceless, libidoless drones.
How the fuck is ID gonna take away my libido?
Und aus diesem Grund wird die Kommission demnächst
This is why the Commission will propose a secure European e-identity.
eine sichere Euro
Of course, he's using the German version of this. They also did it in English, but it sounds so much more upsetting in German, doesn't it?
europäische digitale Identität vorschlagen. Eine, der wir
One that we trust and that any citizen can use anywhere in Europe to do anything.
und die Bürgerinnen und Bürger überall in Europa nutzen können, um
You can do anything, as long as we permit it,
You mean as long as it's not illegal? Yeah, technically speaking, I'm sorry, Russell, you will not be able to traffic children. You can't do it now, and the introduction of digital ID will make it even harder. I'm sorry. It's just, you're going to have to learn to deal. I don't know, get a hobby.
as long as there's not some lockdown, as long as you've never thought or believed anything that we don't agree with. So
Yes, it'll have a digital thought meter on it.
technology is, of course, not necessarily bad. It's
Yeah, I mean, I'm on it, so it's got to be good, isn't it?
simply a tool. What we can
Yes. It's simply a tool, like me. Russell Brand, simply a tool.
concerned about is the ongoing centralization of data and
Hi, stupid. Identification is not a centralized thing. The standards are agreed on amongst multiple countries. And so the EU, which is a bunch of countries getting together and saying, hey, if our citizens want to go back and forth in the European Union and with the United States, other countries we trust, we should all have a standard for minimum basic standards on ID of our citizenry, because you remember that whole thing where we used to just write our passport, or you used to get a letter with a fucking wax stamp on it to prove who you were, and a few of those times it turned out to be complete bullshit and almost burnt the country down. Yeah, we need to kind of up our game, considering everybody's got a fucking cell phone now.
the ability of unelected bodies like the European Union or various international organizations.
By the way, you have elected entities in your country that talk to the EU and come back, and they have to agree on it together. You don't have to elect every group, because your elected representatives are standing up for your rights as citizens. If you don't think they are, elect different people. But in general, the EU is just coming up with a consensus version of what the standard for a digital ID would be, so that you don't have to carry a card and your phone, considering the security on your phone is actually higher than the security on any card they could come up with.
That implement controls. We've seen this happen in the last couple of years.
Have we? Where? Oh, in China. Interesting.
The ability to correlate data, and through this concrescence of national power and global data, create states that are beneficial to their agenda.
Oh, you mean not having terrorism and people like Andrew Tate, not, the actual country, when he's in Romania, knowing that he's in Romania?
Seen it already.
Since he's not a citizen of Romania, for the record.
In the last couple of years, we've seen it piloted. You don't have to be a conspiracy theorist and
Yeah, you do, because you have to be a conspiracy theorist to think that countries trying things out to see if new technology is worthwhile to their citizenry, and immediately assigning that to some sort of deep-seated Jewish cabal conspiracy of baby eaters, ultimately, that's going to depopulate the fucking planet, which is exactly what this asshole does all the time, is, I would say, unnecessary and a lie.
I'm not a conspiracy
Yes, he is.
theorist, in spite of what you
Yes, he is.
might read.
No, I didn't read it, motherfucker. I've watched your fucking videos. Your video is called They Are Watching You, you tit. That's a conspiracy theory. They are watching you. Because the European Union wants a standard ID for travel over borders. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but they are watching you. They're looking through your fucking windows.
Understand that certain sets of interests have benefited from various crises over the last couple of years, and perhaps for a lot longer than that.
Yeah, you know, Black Plague.
The pandemic was hugely profitable to the wealthiest people in the world. The data is available for that.
Yeah, but a lot of other wealthy people got completely fucked. See, so some companies that were tipped in the direction of being useful if everybody had to lock down, like Amazon, for example, expanded during that time. They were not necessarily the wealthiest to start with, but it was particularly useful during that time. Now that people are going back out, that money shifts and goes someplace else because it's up to the consumer where to spend their money. And if people are going out and celebrating again or having New Year's or any of that kind of stuff, they're not ordering New Year's in an Amazon box. Also, hey, remember how rich Elon Musk, he became the wealthiest person in the world during the pandemic. The Tesla stock went through the roof, $400 a share. Not fucking worth anywhere near it, but that's where it went. Now where is it? Because people changed their mind. Not because, did the Illuminati suddenly change its mind about Elon Musk's worth all of a sudden? Or did he fuck his own company by basically embarrassing himself in front of the main customer base of his electric car company?
Big tech benefited, governments benefited.
Yes, by the way, please send the QAnon ladies dance videos to me immediately, somehow. Send them to Can't Stop Lying and he'll put them in the thing. We'll look at them because we're going to need a break after this.
Through their ability to regulate the pharmaceutical industry. If it's a conspiracy theory, you shouldn't be able to call up data and demonstrate that it's 100% true. So
yeah, okay. And you weren't, so fuck off. Just saying, holding up 4 fucking fingers and saying that during a pandemic, the government talked to pharmaceutical companies and pharmaceutical companies talked to the government and they worked out a price exchange for something that was needed in an emergency is not a fucking conspiracy. It's coordination. Jesus. And you weren't, by the way, you weren't even able to prove it with 20 fucking %, much less 100.
Do you think this technology that will be in the same hands, the same sets of interest, is going to be ultimately beneficial?
You mean in the hands of democratically elected individuals in largely European Union countries? Yeah. Do there need to be safeguards like there have to be with every fucking thing? Because humans, especially of your ilk, will try to find a wiggle room to get into everybody's pockets as best they can? Yes. That's why you have pilot programs. If you don't have those pilot programs, you're not aware of the weaknesses. If you're not aware of the weaknesses, then that's when people like you're talking about can get in there and fuck around and mess with everybody's lives. But this asshole thinks if you're piloting the programs or working on different variations of it, that's just your way of corralling people.
Beneficial to you for convenience, for safety, the 2 cudgels that are used to bludgeon you into compliance. Do you think that this is going to mean that we're...
Yeah, convenience and safety are not, have not cudgeled me into compliance. As a matter of fact, there was quite a lot about COVID, for example, that was inconvenient. It was very inconvenient to stay home. For those of us, especially that make our lives on the road. But we care about our families and we want to live through this particular chunk of time rather... Never mind.
so safe and everything's so convenient that it's barely worth getting up out of bed. Why don't you just stick a tube down my neck, fill me full of glucose, and I'll wait for the grave?
Hi, stupid. It's the people that you are talking to largely in your audience who ended up on ventilators, which involves sticking a tube down your throat.
Alles zu tun. Vom Steuerzahlen bis zum Fahrradmieten.
There you are, as usual, it's presented as convenient and amenable. And there's no doubt that having like a sort of a phone.
By the way, do you think this asshole likes the idea of the Steve Forbes doing your taxes on a postcard? It's convenient.
That can do all sorts of fancy stuff and being able to...
Yeah, it can do fancy stuff, like land the Apollo missions on the moon multiple times over because it has 100 times the computing capability of all of the computers used in the Apollo program.
Get into venues and all those things.
Yes, if you have a ticket. Otherwise, you're going to need the Flipper Zero.
They are convenient to be able to pay for travel, and all of these things are convenient. But what if the wind changes? What if there are a new set of circumstances? What if there are new climate curfews? New
climate curfews. Well, I think you're going to have to pay attention to who you're electing and make sure that there are no climate curfews in your country. Now, you live in a monarchy, and your new king is supposedly very climate conscious. So I would either work on turning your country democratic or move to a full-fledged democracy like a grown person.
Virus, lockdowns, a new government altogether that just simply decides to change things. Once you...
Yes, a world government. But he's not a conspiracy theorist. What he means is a one world government, new world order. Yeah. But not a conspiracy. No.
Start implementing this technology, you have to have the kind of naive faith and trust that like either a lamb or an idiot would place into organisations and institutions that have not been behaving in a particularly benevolent fashion.
Hi, asshole. You do realize that there are 4 billion more people on the planet than there were in the 60s. And all during that time, these governments that you are bitching about, specifically the EU and the United States, have been raising the standards around safety and convenience, so much so that people die a lot less often. Early, especially. This is one of those arguments like, when I was a kid, we didn't have all these helmets. Yeah, and a lot more people died. Where do you think this population explosion comes from? We didn't get more interested in fucking. Come on.
The last few years. That's just my view. Let me know your view in the chat.
Yeah. Write something in there so I can track you.
The EU has picked its partners in developing the bloc's controversial digital ID wallet. And
Reclaim the Net calls it controversial.
One of them is the same company that previously worked to develop the UK's official COVID pass and tracing app, Luxembourg-based net company Intrasoft.
Did it work? Was it effective? Is that where you spend your money on it? It was useful and effective, and people adopted it and it solved the problem? That's how it works?
Intrasoft. It's all interwoven and it's all nice and soft. Nothing to worry about there.
Software, dickhead. Software. As opposed to hardware.
Government that introduced the vaccine certification vowed that no personal information will be held beyond its necessity. That's what you would say. But governments were far from unanimous on how long and by whom our intimate information will be held, owned or overseen. Along with IBM, the designer, state bureaucrats were exploring how the platform could be retrofitted to verify other types of records and credentials according...
Like driver's licenses, which are constant. Unlike vaccine statuses.
To Vox. Once biodata are collected and filed, cautioned Hamid Khan of the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, there's no delete button.
Well, yeah, if they collected your DNA because you were arrested and convicted of a crime, it stays in there. You know why? Because of fuckers like this. Again, if you get swabbed, for example, in a case where you're like, are you willing to give your DNA in this case? And you do. After they cleared you, they delete the data. If you're convicted, they hang on to it. Or and I would argue, if you're arrested, they will do it, especially if you get bond and you're out on the street.
In a sense, does this remind you of when Edward Snowden's revelations were made?
No, because what Edward Snowden warned us about was something that the government was doing that Google and Apple and all these other companies sell as a service. The idea that the government did it with certain people was, honest to God, they were behind the curve. They weren't gathering anywhere near the data that regular websites were gathering. By the time the PRISM program was learned about, it was fucking 12 to 15 years out of date.
We just didn't have an understanding of the degree to which we could be tracked, how much of our data was being captured, who.
Right. And it turns out the government was the least of our worries.
Who had access to it. Does this not make you think also of the recent revelations of the amount of CIA and FBI involvement in platforms like Twitter and...
No. Because they emailed back and forth and that was humans talking to each other. And Twitter told them to go pound sand at regular interval. And the only time they agreed, it seems, with the Biden campaign about taking any posts down about Hunter Biden is when they showed his dick.
Other platforms also, that there's just...
Yeah, other platforms, like Square.
A interconnected, symbiotic relationship between big tech platforms and the government, and that there's a shared agenda to accrue information because...
No, there isn't. There are parallel agendas, there are crisscross agendas, and then there are repulsed agendas. There are diverging agendas. There are times when the government and social media align because they don't want their citizens to die and the social media platform doesn't want their customers to die. And then there's times when the social media thing goes, well, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. And the government has to go, well, actually, we're tasked with protecting all the eggs, whether we like them or not. And then there's times when the government and, say, TikTok are at absolute odds in this particular situation.
Whether it's commercially or in order to implement state power, the acquisition of data is extremely powerful. Ultimately, they believe that we are data, that we're nothing...
By the way, don't forget to hit the notification bell. This motherfucker's going to tell people to hit the notification bell at the end and comment in the thing, which is all trackable and digital reference to getting their email, sending them emails. It's like... Does he give a fuck? Does he even know?
More than information that we can be observed and tracked. And obviously, once it gets to CBDCs, centralized currencies, they're digital, controlled. The more ability to exert power they have, the more power they actually have.
What he means, by the way, is cashless societies. This is what the far-right Christian groups are worried about, largely because, if the government can see what you're spending your money on, they're very worried. Because what they say they're about and what they actually spend their cash on seems to be heavily divergent.
We have. Not long ago.
Yeah, and there's tons of cuts in this. Yeah, you're well spotted. His producer slices out shit that goes over the line, whatever the fucking line they decide is.
In order to counter a genuine radical movement of ordinary people, they would have to have the army on the streets. Now people can just be shut down with a button.
No, you can't. China tried that, and they had to turn the system off. And they have a draconian military system there. They have the right, because the People's Liberation Army, the PLA of China, is not the army of China. It is the army of the Communist Party. The Communist Party has its own private army that it allows to enforce the law on the Chinese people, enforce behavior. And even that failed. And we have laws against that in the West, in the United States, and especially the UK, certainly in most of the EU countries, if not all of them.
ability to transact could be shut down easily and simply. I don't have that much trust in anyone in the world, let alone the organisations that we're granting it to. When
But don't forget to hit the notification bell.
biometric data, bodily attributes digitised, are married to surveillance technology, both the potential for profit and the ambitions of the techno-futurists inflate without limit.
Inflate without limit. Next thing you know, we'll all have a little weird symbol on our shirt that we can tap and go, bridge to captain.
British tech firm Onfido envisions a seamless EU-wide identity verification, or IDV system for online gambling, telemedicine, car rentals, electronic voting and more. In 2020, Onfido called its immunity passport in development the linchpin of a new normality in a post-COVID-19 society.
Yeah, in 2020. As they were trying to sell it. Didn't work out. They were hoping this would solve it. You know, they didn't know how virulent this disease would be, whether or not there would have to be, you know, continual lockdowns around. It turns out you didn't need it. Turned out there was a vaccine. Matter of fact, with mRNA vaccines, we're going to be well past a lot of that necessity going forward anyways.
Is often the case. These matters are not only conspiratorial, not only are they
Shadow Woman, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you for gifting those subs. Lovely. Bless you.
not conjecture. The very organisations that are involved are explicitly telling you what the plan is. They're
right. So that you as a citizen can talk to your leaders that interact with the EU and go, I like that part, I don't like that part. And they go, okay, well, in our country, your digital ID won't work for this. In that country, you could use it for online gambling, but not here.
overtly saying, this is what we're going to do. And then if you counter with a question like, couldn't that be misused under certain circumstances?
Couldn't someone take your ID if they look kind of like you, like a younger brother, and sneak into a bar and drink underage? With that kind of, aren't there limitations? Couldn't someone steal your, like, see you and go, wow, that person looks like me, knock you over the head, take your driver's license and your credit cards and use them for a while they're on the run? And maybe the danger is that, you know, in the old days, when there wasn't a picture on a driver's license, you could murder someone, take their identity, and it didn't matter what the fuck they looked like. Now, if I look like a criminal, then I might be in more danger. What if I go to Burning Man, there's like 17 dudes there that could knock me over the head and run off with all my cards and live my life until people realize I'm missing?
Even your inquiry is regarded as a kind of hysteria. But
no, it isn't. This is not an inquiry. This fucker is insisting that there is a deep, dark plan behind all of it.
how can it be hysterical if you've been alive for the last couple of years? If you're
You're still alive, dumb fuck. How about this? You've been alive for the last couple of years, and all of the big fears you've been selling haven't panned out yet, have they? Neither have Alex Jones's, and he's been doing this shit for 2 fucking decades.
witnessing the advancing censorship on social media platforms and in mainstream media, the growing power and wealth of these big tech organisations, the inability to enact meaningful change in the political space.
To enact meaningful change. I don't know if you know about, I mean, you live in a monarchy, so I guess you're kind of fucked. But we were able to boot Trump and replace him. Yeah. And the Republicans were unable to seize control of both houses of Congress. That was good. And even the control they have of the House is a hair's breadth, and they're eating themselves alive. So even Kevin McCarthy's having a hell of a time becoming speaker. It's like I said, there's not going to be enough popcorn for next year.
Simple observation of fact.
Well, simple in deference to your brain capacity.
At this point, this year,
By the way, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Motherfucker is still alive. Everybody around. And one of the reasons he's alive, if he's not vaccinated, is because a bunch of other people are. And if he had to go to the hospital and get intubated, there'll be beds open because a lot of people don't need to be intubated anymore because they've got vaccines or they've got, pharmaceutical, either like Paxlovid or any of these other treatments that will keep you from getting really bad COVID and putting you in a situation where you might end up in an ICU taking up one of many beds. Meanwhile, in China, they blew it all off, and their vaccine sucks, and they use the vaccine passport thing as their primary resource against it, and it failed miserably, and the rest of the world is like, yeah, we're not doing that.
The company's chief privacy officer told Biometric Update that proven immunity to the virus de jure might become a basic permission attribute. A Swedish company has introduced a vaccine certification microchip that can be implanted under the skin.
It's the same Swedish company that's been putting, like, open your door locks with it. Any RFID chip can be put under your fucking skin. I'll give you an example, if I may, one more time. Remember this little thing I showed you? Flipper Zero? Yeah, it can read RFID chips from 3 feet away. Which means it could be behind you. It could be in your back pocket. And they could be standing over there. They could be walking up, right? They could read it facing you, which means they can read it through your whole fucking body. So of course they can read it under your goddamn skin. RFID chips can be placed under anybody's skin. There's no purpose for it. The only difference is that if it's under your skin, certain people can guarantee a certain relative permanence to it because somebody can't. I guess if you had a ring, they could knock you over the head and take the ring and use the ring as a pass or whatever. But even still, with things like the flipper, there is no point to having it under your skin because somebody could just hold it up to your arm while you're sleeping and dummy it and use it to get in wherever the fuck they want.
This is one of those times where you can just step back and look at all of the various nodes of progression and how they...
Yeah, and then instantly assume they're evil.
They might coalesce to create digital tyranny. Meanwhile, in it...
Don't forget to hit the notification bell and the like button and subscribe. And sign up for my meditation program because you might be anxious at this point.
India's Income Tax Administration has warned citizens that they should link their permanent account numbers, or PANs, to their Aadhaar biometric identification numbers before April the 1st, 2023, or risk their PAN becoming non-operational. So there we are. There's an example of how it...
Yes, there we are. A country that's not in the EU, which has 1 billion fucking people, and has a border dispute with Pakistan, fighting back and forth. By the way, Pakistan's doing that too. Shall we... hold on one second. Yeah, here we go. Digital ID. There's got to be something in here. Hold on. There's an India one in here. I know it. Okay, here we go. So, digital ID. What's happening with digital ID? There you go, matching it to your fucking card so that it's the same everywhere. IT Wire. A digital identity takes off as governments realize benefits. Biometric recognition of newborns and young children, so you can't snatch a baby and run off with it. There was just another big story about a dude who stole a baby, pretending that he was casting a TV show. Let's see. EU hires Nordic consultancies to develop European digital ID wallet. This is, let's see, can benefit governments, companies, and individuals. Forbes. This is a Forbes article. How embracing digital identity can benefit governments, companies, and individuals. There's our identity frameworks haven't fundamentally changed. Whoops, scoop back up here. Haven't fundamentally changed since the advent of the internet. 15 years after the release of the first iPhone, it's long past time for governments, businesses, and individuals to rethink identity. Some of the world's most urgent concerns are tied to our identities, including financial exclusions, online censorship, and election integrity. Managing your own identity should be a human right and a question of equity. Right now, the shortcomings of our current system exclude 1.7 billion people from the basic financial services, meaning 1 person in 5 cannot access a bank account for day-to-day, person-to-person, and person-to-government affairs. Embracing innovative digital identity models should be a priority for governments, banks, and this is the Forbes take on it. Understanding how people will benefit from going digital, blah, blah, blah. These are all the sales points on it, by the way. Hold on, let me back up. South Korea has a digital identity blockchain that are adding credentials so that you can use your phone and the fact that it scans your face to go anywhere and do anything, and like align some of those details that you use to open your phone to open borders and the like, that kind of stuff. Just the only difference is there a person there or is an AI doing it? Because, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but a person can stop you from crossing a national border or keep you from entering a place. That's what bouncers are for. Digital ID blueprint for all 50 states published. No big asks. Says, this is a site called Biometric Update. A crowd of major corporations doing business in the United States is encouraging state governments to enact 6 policies considered by industry insiders vital to establishing a national secure digital ID regime. The Better Identity Coalition, 27 companies based in the U.S., among them AT&T, Equifax, Yubico, MasterCard, fuck Equifax, by the way, but Onfido and IDEMIA, either want to stop worrying about ID fraud or want to profit from preventing it. This is the coalition's second ambitious outing. In 2018, the year it formed, the group issued a related blueprint for the federal government where progress has been negligible. But I thought the same very people were in that, but big tech and government were working together. But there's not progress? I see. The first members of the coalition are encouraging states to make their motor vehicle licensing agencies the core of building and then maintaining systems that interoperate with other state agencies and governments beyond their own borders. These agencies are, for the most, that's the whole like digital ID thing, the real ID that they've been pushing for because it's harder to spoof.
It might be used.
Sounds terrifying. Yeah. Says the person who doesn't notice the magnetic strip on the back of their driver's license already and the multitude of ways that they keep it from being able to be forged.
Already happening. So
and it still can be.
It's not even a projection. It's an observation of what's happening presently. And of course, you'll be very...
No, it isn't. Seeing someone cross the street is an observation. Saying that you believe they're going across the street to murder someone is a projection. Makes sense? Just because you're seeing that person cross the street and you're predisposed to believe that someone across the street deserves to be murdered and the person that's crossing the street is your friend, I suppose. This is a weird analogy, but you get what I'm going with.
Very familiar with the example of the Canadian truckers and people that donated having their bank accounts frozen. So,
no, they blocked the roads with trucks. That is not an option that most protesters have. They used large machinery to stop traffic. Fuck you. They didn't stand there and hold hands. They didn't stand there and go, I'm a person and this is my beliefs. They turned their fucking trucks sideways. Anybody who doesn't have a fucking truck can't protest that way. So they don't get special privileges. Fuck those guys.
Already this technology is used. We're just discussing how it might be used and therefore...
Yeah, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But it is going to be used to herd you up, make you stupid, chain you, and kill you.
We're discussing is, do you trust the institutions in power, whether they're governmental or corporate? Do you trust them? Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the...
Yeah, write something. Let me know. No one from the government will be looking at your chats. I mean... You're a bot. Anyways.
Comments if the ability to exert this amount of control is something that you want to offer them.
They already have it. For fuck's sake. They just have to use people to do it. I suppose at some point there used to be a person in a parking garage that would stand there and you'd have to pay them as you went out. And then eventually they did a big wooden arm. And then you would pay the machine, and then the wooden arm would lift up. And now, thanks to the Flipper Zero, you can open... oh, yeah, here you go. Here's a guy hacking gas prices. Just changing the gas. There you go. Yeah. Let's see what this guy is. Flipper Zero versus Tesla Cho. We saw that one. I don't know what the fuck that guy's doing. Hold on. Flipper Zero. Let's see. I'm going to see if they... I did these specifically. Yeah, here you go. Brute force. Brute force is one of the things where it overrides digital security everywhere. Honest to God, this is, yeah, there you go. How to hack one of those things. Just take that card and then you run this thing by it and then you can spoof it and there you go. The Power Flipper Zero with custom firmware. There you get an update. You can do whatever the fuck. The starter guide for it. How to fake everything. Let's see. Flipper Zero. Parking gate. Let's see if this one. Here you go. This is Flipper Zero opening. Turn this off so. Just emulating an ID key at a door. Click. Got and there you go. Here's a gate opening. Gee, I can't imagine why people or companies or whatever are trying to update all the quality standards for getting in and out of places. Can you? Shit.
In India, PAN is required to perform multiple financial activities like creating bank accounts, depositing money, trading stocks, and buying or selling real estate. Throughout history, marginal communities that exist outside of the system have been condemned, even in countries like...
Marginal communities have been condemned. Have they?
Throughout history, marginal communities that exist outside of the system have been condemned, even in...
Outside of the system. Condemned to what? Not be able to use the system? Why in the... Was there always a system? No. Then why did some people come up with a system? Why would you even need a system? Because people take advantage of holes in everything and kill people and steal, and I don't even know why we even have police anymore. Why do cops carry handcuffs? It seems a little silly to me. Won't everyone go along willingly? Why are they torturing these people who refuse to come along quietly or try to steal their gun and shoot them? It's odd. I don't think they started off with shackles.
In countries like mine, Britain, people that are travellers are regarded with suspicion, cynicism, and often outright racism because they simply live outside of our models of taxation.
What, you mean the Jippos? I fucking hate pikeys. Is that what he's talking about?
And finance have just gone, hey, what if we could just live differently? And that's regarded as, how dare you try and live...
No, it isn't. But if I don't know who you are, I'm not letting you into my house. And if your whole like introduction to society is, trust me, I got news for you. I've seen the stories about Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. No. Civilized society has some standards. Why the fuck do you think they used to put, like, even the documents that when people used to go land to land, they'd use a wax stamp. They would, like, have people enforcing people not making a copy of the king's stamp so they couldn't fuck with everything. And that was nearly impossible.
Live differently. But actually, why shouldn't you live differently? If you want to go and live in the woods, if you want to travel around, if you want to be free, if you want to...
Right. So if you want to do that, why are you buying stocks? I want to live outside the system in a way that I can steal from the system and live off of it like a fucking tick. But I want the dog to die. I want, you don't understand. I'm not part of the dog. I'm a tick. And a tick lives differently than a dog, okay? I'm better than the dog. And if the dog dies, I'll just get on a pig. You understand? Because I'm a tick.
Harmonise with nature? Who has the monopoly?
Harmonise with nature, yeah. Yeah, if I want to sit outside naked, it's fine. I mean, granted, I don't have ID on me, and it is a preschool.
On what is right. Through identity politics, people are able now to discuss, hey, I feel like this, I want to be spoken to in that way. Fantastic, that's cool. You start saying, I want to opt out of the financial system, please. Good luck with those pronouns.
Okay, asshole. That, like, try to be woke outside of the financial system. By the way, the pikeys, that's exactly what they do. Although they opt out of the financial system by operating largely in cash. And that's what he's talking about. You don't want to opt out of the financial system. You want to use the financial system and you want to do it under the fucking table. You want to use it, but not contribute to it.
So, this brings us to central banking digital currencies.
No, it does not. It does not bring us to that. You are aligning these things, asshole. And he's still using the story about India.
Governments and financial institutions are increasingly warming to the idea of introducing central bank digital currencies. I like
It's an old article.
this idea that we could switch off the money tap. In April 20...
By the way, they're talking about basically crypto for governments using effective blockchain crypto, and it's somehow it's okay if it's run by randos or cartels. But once a government starts doing it that you can actually elect different leaders in, that's the problem.
2021, Rishi Sunak launched a task force on Bank of England digital currency. With the decline in the use of cash, which has been managed, and the increase...
Oh, has it? Has it been managed? I thought we were all doing it out of convenience, but I guess we're being led to slaughter because we don't want to handle cash from strangers.
Increased prominence of cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin, there has been...
You can tell this article is old. Increased prominence? Is that what's going on?
heightened interest among policymakers about the viability of central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. Now, of course, Bitcoin was widely condemned and damned in public spaces because I imagine they observed it was something they couldn't control. Hold on.
Or it was largely used for human trafficking, money laundering, guns, and drugs. And it had no practical use elsewhere. Right. One of the reasons why it didn't take off.
What if we had our own one that we could control? Oh no, that would be all right. Well, but what about all of the ecological stuff and all them other things you said? Yeah, that don't matter now.
Yeah, because they don't have to mine it, dumb fuck. There is no ecological aspect of CBDCs. Crypto is based on, Bitcoin in particular is based on this. You have to mine them, you have to do these calculations, and there's only a limited number of them. And if you do these calculations and you solve it, you get a Bitcoin or a piece of a Bitcoin. Primarily, I think it's one Bitcoin once you solve one of these things. But the point is that it takes a shit ton of computers and a lot of waste to do this. When a government establishes one, they just make it in the same way that they make regular currency. It exists based on the economic balance of GDP in the country. And quite frankly, the Fed already does this between banks. There is no ecological cost of CBDCs. No one is mining them. They are created by the government as a fiat currency. Like this motherfucker.
Have a look at Rishi Sunak, Boulders Brass, WEF, Goldman Sachs, leader of our country, if you're in the UK, telling us what we've got to look forward to.
Today, I'm proud to say that under the UK's presidency...
We already saw this,
He's
by the
always
way.
in that mood, Rishi Sunak. I've never seen him not in that mood. Whether he's calling up Zelensky on the phone with old Trudy Trudeau, or announcing that he's going to end our relationship with China. Doesn't matter. Good news, bad news. Sorry that I was at those parties all the while you were locked up during lockdown.
It's weird. It's almost like, and by the way, he's looking at his producer right here for clearance about what he's talking about. And this probably believing he's going to cut this part out. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But this asshole talks about everything from the sort of premonition of dangerous, deadly conspiracy. Russell always sounds the same on this fucking show.
That's the mood he's in. Hello. Just like a smiling puppet, which is weird because he's an autonomous being who's democratically elected. Oh no, he wasn't democratically elected.
The group of the world's 7 most advanced economies, the G7, is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money.
You idiot.
A bit like a digital banknote that could be used alongside physical notes.
Oops. Does anyone see the hole in Russell's argument that could be used alongside physical notes and coins?
And coins.
Yeah.
A bit like a digital banknote that could be used alongside physical notes and coins.
For a while, till we stop banknotes and coins, and then we can control you even more.
Unlike
Again, this is, but he's not a conspiracy theorist.
most of the digital money people use daily today, It would be issued directly by a central bank, like the Bank of England in the UK.
It's all fine. It's all going to be fine.
And governments and central banks across the world are working together,
Sort of like they're coordinated or conspiring to do it.
looking into what
By the way, Russell is in favor of the BRICS currency. Like Russia and India and China and the Middle East and Iran and all, putting together their own digital currency to, as a replacement for the petrodollar, that bullshit story that Jimmy Dore carries around and stuff. He's all for that. As long as it's for, vast quantities of fossil fuels, human trafficking, and weapons, that's fine. But if it's just another element of your digital wallet, which you already have, like they just don't want to have to store the number of physical cash in a bank that you carry when you're using EBT cards or digital debit cards or any of this shit. I'm getting so tired of this. I got to be honest. We're 11 minutes into this 17-minute clip, and I'm this close to bailing out. If this motherfucker doesn't have a Shazam, I'm done.
currency might mean in practice.
I've got an idea what it might mean in practice.
Oh yeah? What? You dumb fuck. A debit card?
This includes issues that people care about, such as ensuring users' money would be safe and secure.
It's got to be safe. It's got to be secure.
As opposed to?
Would be energy efficient.
Oh, it's got to be any. Oh, but thank God. I mean, I was worried, the environment.
And available
Right, which is a joke to Russell.
to everyone.
Yeah, it's got to be everyone, like the poor, the desperate, the maligned, the outsiders, and people, for example, that virulently oppose your centralised systems. They shouldn't be excluded either.
Well, asshole, if you're not participating in, quote, the centralized system, which, by the way, the British system, even though it's a monarchy, is not a centralized fucking system. They elect people to the House of Commons and the House of Lords or whatever, and they represent their district, and the district has a say in it. And if they don't like what that person's saying on the floor, they elect somebody else. That's not centralized planning. Centralized planning is what you have with the CCP, where no citizen has any fucking say, not only in what goes on in the decisions made, but in who makes those fucking decisions. We elect people in the United States. This motherfucker, by the way, this whole thing must be seen in the context of basically Russell Brand, Rusty Trombone, is making the same case Kari Lake is making. There is no difference between the argument that Russell Brand is making and his ilk, the same kind of people. There's no difference between that and Kari Lake, what she's saying.
A potential CBDC could offer businesses and consumers new ways to pay in the future.
Businesses and consumers. And what's outside of that? Nothing.
It's all part
Well, in terms of using money, I don't believe in money. Well, then who gives a shit how it's exchanged then? What? Again, where the fuck does this guy think he's outside the system? First of all, he makes money off of advertising and subscriptions and all that shit and selling his programs and doing live shows and being an actor. So he's completely in the capitalist system. Probably the issue he has is paying fucking taxes on it in the UK, because he doesn't think that a lot of these marginalized people outside the system, they don't want our system, so why should we give them financial aid? Fuck them, is basically what Russell is saying. I don't understand why we provide, resources for the poor if they don't seem to be interested. Really? So why am I being taxed?
of the wider story of digital innovation that has delivered benefits to millions around the world and in the UK.
Woohoo! Benefits! Benefits! What if you're on benefits? Then you're fucked. In 2020...
Why would you be fucked if you're on benefits? I don't even know what that means. Because the government gives you money, they may limit, like you do with EBT cards here in the States, you can't buy liquor with it. Right? Is that what he's talking about?
2021, the Bank of England called on ministers to decide whether a central banking digital currency should be programmable, ultimately giving the issuer control over how it is spent by the recipient. Tom Mutton, a director at the Bank of England, said there could be some socially beneficial outcomes from that, preventing activity which is seen to be socially harmful in some way.
What he means is, well, we'll let him finish it.
Depending on the mood of the day. We could just shut down any dissidents or anyone who argues or we don't like the look of. You could think of giving your children pocket money but programming the money so that it couldn't be used for sweets. Have you noticed how they talk to us like we're idiot children?
They're not talking to you like you're idiot children. They're talking to you like you have children. And if you gave your kid cash, they could buy drugs with it. But if you gave them a debit card that only works in some areas and can't buy cigarettes or alcohol or some shit, it might be a way to limit activity outside what you approve your money that you give your kid for. It's the same thing that happens. They do it with iPads and fucking phones now. Limit who they can call or text with until they get to an age where they're mature enough to talk to fucking strangers, if they ever are.
Continually, whether it's Rishi Sunak's kindly...
And by the way, he's not talking about like your children. He's talking about the people with children that you could, again, give your kids an allowance card that's specific to it. Or, again, EBT stuff where you're giving people financial assistance where they're trying to get back on their feet after they've been, an addict or what have you. And instead of giving them cash at some sort of office, you give them, or even a check they could cash, for example, and use the cash. You give them an EBT card that's for groceries and rent and gas and all those kind of things that they can't necessarily without jumping through a bunch of hoops, which, by the way, if they're able to jump through those hoops, they're operating at a smarter level already, which might eventually help them get out. The more complicated it is, the more complicated the thinking they're capable of would be. And if anybody tries to manipulate them by using their own smarts to go, hey, I can take your EBT card and I can turn it into cash for you, that person could be arrested for trying to manipulate addicts who are trying to get back up on their feet.
Blank stare, or the metaphors and analogies that they use to help us understand how the relentless advance of a centralized new world order will be sort of beneficial for us. You're like some children, okay, and you want some sweets, I suppose. Well, yeah, because I'm a child, I don't want anything else. Well, you can't have no fucking sweets, or, for example, freedom, or the right to dissent, or to believe what you want to believe, or live a lifestyle that we have.
Again, I don't know how, I guess if you put your beliefs into words, then they could act on them. But he constantly hammers on this. It's what they know. They don't want you to believe certain things. You're not allowed to believe certain things, as if anybody knows what the fuck you believe until you actually say it. And then if you say it and you're criticized for it, or there's some sort of pushback, or you're called a liar, especially if you're trying to manipulate people with what you're saying, then somehow that's centralized control.
Haven't sanctioned all of that. Beep.
What's with the cuts? I don't know, they slap these fucking things together.
No sherbet for you, sonny boy. There is a whole range of things that money could do, programmable money, which we cannot do with the current technology. Yeah, once money's out there, people could do whatever they like, almost as if they're free. But once it's...
Right, and they can, say, have a relationship with a sanctioned country selling children. It would be nice if you couldn't buy and sell a kid. Or organs.
Programmable
maybe
money,
not.
They could do.
I mean, they just want you to. Why shouldn't you be able to? If you want to live outside the system and be marginalized with one kidney, why shouldn't you sell one of your kidneys if you feel like it?
But we like, almost as if they're not free. And it's as simple as that. In spite of condemning China when it's convenient, many of our so-called democracies openly admire China and emulate them when possible. So what's...
Oh, really? How? How? How do they emulate them when possible? Could be that democracies and advanced societies come up with systems to make their citizens more safe and more secure, and countries like China copy that and take it way too fucking far. Because I got news for you, Russell. You can watch RT on the internet from the US or any EU country. Yep. Can you watch YouTube from China? Yeah, if you have a VPN and you don't get caught.
What's going on over there? China is exploring expiration dates with its upcoming digital yuan, or DCEP, which means the currency will expire if not used in a certain time frame. So I guess they can switch off your money if you don't use it how they want you to. Let's have a look.
China
Yeah, let's
is
have a look.
exploring expiration dates with its upcoming digital yuan, or DCEP.
What the fuck video is this? This is one of those like AI made fake news videos.
Which means the currency will expire if not used in a certain time frame. The digital yuan is programmable to the point that the currency can be made to expire, thus forcing consumers to use it up by a certain date.
Forcing consumers. Now, I'm not an economist, so I don't know whether or not having currency expire and therefore having a greater turnover expenditure is good within a particular state capitalist or state communist model. I'm not qualified to say, but once the
But I will say this. It sounds like something they're going to do here, and there's no escaping it, and you're feeling anxious right now, and I'd like to sell you my meditation program.
the technology exists to sort of shut down, devalue, or prevent money from being spent, it's pretty easy to see how that same technology might be used to control undesirable activity or undesirable people. And with more and
Like what? You mean like cartels? Which ones? Or you just mean people trying to talk about ivermectin on Twitter?
more protest laws being introduced and more censorship laws and more.
Are there? Like what? Name one. Name one. What protest laws, what censorship laws? Seriously. Notice how he just says it. What? Name one.
More control of what they call misinformation and disinformation. If you add to that the ability to control currency, it's pretty easy to see how social credit score type systems, control of currency could lead to a situation where you're essentially in an open prison, where you're essentially.
Yeah, that's what we're leading to. Star Trek is basically an open prison. Look, everybody's wearing a prison uniform. The doors only open and close if you're supposed to go there. It's terrifying.
A
it's
slave,
so
where
worth
you
this
will
asshole.
have freedom, but that freedom is so prescriptive that it's not really freedom at all, is it? Once they can observe your health data, your financial habits, your spending habits, your medical situation,
You mean like Google can right now?
censor you to within an inch of your life and shut off your finances at the push of a button, what kind of freedom is really left? Let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments.
If domestic
Well, I guess you could live a more primitive existence outside of that system, right?
consumption can be tightly controlled, then it's a way to not just increase the volume of consumption,
Jesus Christ. Is this what this motherfucker watches for news? You guys have seen these, right? You guys have seen these like auto-generated AI it's an AI voiceover, an AI like digital person just kind of going and graphics thrown over it. You guys have seen these, right? Is this where this fucker gets his stuff from? It makes sense.
but to control the variance of demand for the goods China produces.
Even though this is rather a nice presentation, just notice the words like force and tightly control. That's what it.
Yeah, because they're against it, dumb fuck.
Comes down to. When this is presented to you, it will be as convenient and safe and preventing fraud and fighting crime, and you'll be an inch taller and it's going to be great on your wedding day and all sorts of stuff. But in effect, they don't do things unless it gives them more power or.
Oh, God. How would it ultimately give them more power if it's confining to the point where people do not feel they can live freely? Is there a wall that humanity hits? Did they sneak up on you and they're like, oh, we could turn it all off? You can't make your legs stop working. You might be able to lock every gate, but as I've shown you, all anybody needs is a flipper zero or any of the myriad of devices they're going to have in the future that will do the exact same fucking thing.
Gives their corporate partners more ability to profit. Those are the only motivations you will ever see play out. Just look at any news.
Nonsense. By the way, a lot of people, myself included, and even this asshole will tell you he's different because he's providing a service. Like, because I think comedy is a service industry. I think what I'm doing here is a service. And I'm not just like, all right, if I could just get more people to not be able to watch other people's shows, then I would have control over what they say. And so I've got to turn them off from watching. I think I'm onto something. I think I've figured out his business model.
Story in the world, basically, and you can see that playing out. That's why I'm always suspicious when they say, this is because human life is sacred, or because we want to protect this marginalised group. You think, that doesn't seem to be how you behave generally, so...
Yeah, it does. Motherfucker, the European Union and the United States and Canada are the most positive spaces on the planet for marginalized groups. If you don't believe me, go to Xinjiang or the Middle East or North Africa or North Korea or China or fucking parts of South America. Are you out of your fucking mind? And if it isn't the case, if anybody who thinks outside the system is constantly in danger of being swallowed up and put in an open-air prison, well, why the fuck is this guy still living in the UK? He's got money. He could be like fucking Jack Dorsey living in a little hut in Indonesia or Vietnam off the fucking grid. Yes, or Portland when it wasn't a crater. Exactly. This motherfucker, like, he couldn't even do this fucking show if he wasn't in the UK or the United States or the EU. You out of your fucking mind? It's so, all they want is more power, which is why I want you to click the notification bell if you don't. Shut up.
Why are you doing it this time? Because there's money in it.
The digital yuan permits a new method for surveilling the population.
Also good.
By the way, like again, the video he's watching is a paranoid AI-created news in quotes video about a particular story that's meant to draw eyeballs, and this motherfucker is using it as a source.
It's good that you can surveil them, their spending habits, and...
No, it's not good. That video is like one of the Epic Times videos. They make them automatically.
Stop them spending if they're naughty.
Creating new data which can be tracked by authorities.
I mean, what about this is good news for you?
It's not. It isn't. It's a spook video. It's meant to scare you. Stupid. What kind of an asshole watches that video and thinks they're trying to entice me into this system? It kind of looks good. I don't know, parts of it, but I don't like that authority word. That sounds bad. I've been a pretend rebel my whole fucking life, and I don't like that they want me to do that.
You and your family creating new data that can be tracked by authorities. Whichever way you look at it, it's less power for you, more power for them, ultimately more profit for organisations that are already benefiting hugely from the advance of technology. The problem is, of course, as I said at the beginning of this presentation, technology is not, of course, bad. It's
fuck off.
Wonderful and incredible and given us miraculous results because of the ingenuity.
It's a miracle that they're going to use to kill us. It's a cudgelly miracle. It's a miracle knife. They're coming after me with the miracle knife. What a fucking moron.
The people that have worked on this stuff, and with the right ideology behind it, we could be creating a sort of utopia here on Earth.
Yeah, so sign up. I've just created an app. Sign up for my app. That you watch. This motherfucker is going to launch a crypto in the spring.
Where people work less, where we have fairer, more equal societies with less conflict, where people could live traditional or progressive lifestyles,
or traditional or progressive lifestyles. Which tradition are we talking about? This asshole's against the progressive lifestyle, by the way, because he thinks Star Trek's an open-air prison.
On their preferences, and that not every single decision that was made was used to advance the interests of centralized authority. But looking at today...
And again, fuck this dude. He's gonna... The next thing he's gonna say is an ad, because there's less than a minute left. For the record, we don't have centralized authority in democratic countries, because we can swap out the people who actually make the policy. And the more regularly you're able to do it, the better. Now, this idea that the parties in the UK can pick their prime minister, whatever, he can't direct policy anyways. He's kind of he doesn't sign the laws in singularly, for example. So he's sort of representative of the dominant party in pick, just like Netanyahu in Israel or something like that. But it's a different mechanic than we have with the presidency over here. Fix your shit.
His presentation is pretty clear that whether it's
Come get your rusty bucks now.
social credit scoring or digital IDs or CBDCs, ultimately, in the wrong hands, this will diminish your power and increase their power. But that's just what I think. If you
Oh God, fuck off. That was intolerable. That took forever. I'm sorry. Jesus Christ. Like, I get in for a penny, in for a pound, you know what I mean? But I have this thing about not taking segments out of people's shit and just isolating things and go like he does and make a mountain out of every fucking molehill I see. Oh God. Can we just skip something? Can we do something short next? Jesus. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. Let's go to this one next. It'll be now, by the way, you're watching HAL Sparks Mega Worldwide. Whew. We got through that one though. I don't do Rusty very often anymore because his fucking clips are 17 minutes long. And it's just a bunch of repetitive horseshit. I might have to do like a Rusty trombone rule where I only do half of it unless it's really, enticing me to move past a certain point. If you're for that, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Fucking hell. All right. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I give you... I don't know who this guy is. Nobody does. He goes by the name George Santos. He used to go by the name George DeVolder Santos, and before that, he went by the name George DeVolder, which is a very interesting name. He is a Brazilian Catholic Jew who graduated from all universities and no universities. His mother both died on 9/11 and months later, and maybe years later. There's so many details. But according to Newsmax, if this guy was a Democrat, we'd just let it slide. Now, I gotta say right out of the gate, he kind of has a point. I think it's one of the reasons why Democrats didn't attack him, because he's gay and he has a Hispanic last name, and Democrats have a preconceived notion about marginalized communities that we give them a wide berth to do their thing. And if somebody says they're gay or they're Hispanic or they're black, they have black roots or they're Jewish or whatever, if they make up an identity for themselves, we're not going to necessarily go, hang on a second, are you really black? Like, it gets weird. So even when Biden, said the you're not really black thing, like to Charlemagne, I think it was Charlemagne the God or whatever, which, fuck, man. If you're talking to a dude with a name like that, all bets are off. That's just fucking ridiculous. Unless he's a wrestler. That's really what you call yourself? Jesus Christ. This is fucking weird. So anyway, yeah, you're a modish. He's gayish, right? But the idea is that Democrats are like, all right, he's gay, and I mean, it's good that he's getting into politics, I guess. I don't know, like, it's hard to run against him as a Democrat in some ways. So they didn't really push. They just didn't. Whereas if he was a Democrat and he'd been lying about all this stuff, we have others to choose from. So I think he would have gotten called out during the primary season. Not as a Republican, though.
Congressman-elect George Santos is facing a slew of accusations this...
No, a slew of realizations. He wasn't accused. It's fucking true. He made it up. He called himself a proud Jew. He's not Jewish. Shut the fuck up. He didn't graduate from where he said he graduated from. His mother didn't die on 9/11. Like, these aren't accusations of fabrications. It's true. He fabricated these things, and he's accusing other people of, I don't know, bludgeoning him with the truth.
This week, alleging that he fabricated large segments of his resume.
Yeah, it's just small segments would have been fine.
Misled voters about his faith and family. During his campaign, Santos claimed to have graduated from Baruch College and NYU.
And
Either institution, however, has found any records of him attending.
Well, then that would be that'd be a big red flag for me. How did they have on the year that he allegedly graduated? Follow me on this. Did everyone else get a diploma? Did everyone else who went to that school actually show up for classes, pay tuition, possibly even stay in dorms, and end up with credits? Did that actually occur? Well then. All right.
Santos has also been called out by the Jewish community for falsely claiming to be a part of that faith.
Okay, by the way, I'm not Jewish. I'm not a proud Jew. I would be if I was, I suppose, but I'm not. And I called it out. You don't have to be Jewish to go, that fucker lied. It's not like Jews are the only ones that care that this asshole was pretending to be Jewish. Right? Like, you don't have to be black to think Rachel Dolezal is fucking awful, do you? Is that the standard? Is that the Republican standard? You guys know who Rachel Dolezal is, right? She's the woman who, the white lady who pretended to be black so that she could head the NAACP in Seattle. Which again, if you want to know how somebody like George Santos can lie his way into office this way, just look at Rachel Dolezal. Because there's a line as far as questioning someone's identity that Democrats just tend not to do. If you're on the liberal side of things, you just let people call themselves whatever the fuck they want to call themselves until they cross some sort of awful fucking line, right? Like Rachel Dolezal did, which was take a job at the NAACP from, I don't know, an actual black person, which is a little... It's fucked up, I would say, is the phrase comes to mind for me. And in this particular case, his joke about, well, I didn't say I said I was Jewish and I would joke about it. And then we find out he wrote a letter to this like Jewish committee that he was fundraising from and trying to get votes from, calling himself a proud Jew, which is far past the line of going, I always kid around being Jewish, like I'm Jew-y, I'm Jew-like.
The 34-year-old has since admitted to lying about his heritage, education, and past jobs while campaigning.
Are we sure about his height?
Santos is now facing potential investigations by the House Ethics Committee and the...
Weird. We're still going to have one of those if the Republicans take over? Don't they scuttle it every time they take over?
Nassau County District Attorney's Office. With us now, Jeffrey Lord served as an advisor in the Reagan White House and is a
two dipshits who will run interference for this fuck.
Contributing editor for the American Spectator. Mark Rudolph is a branding advisor.
By the way, this is the same guy who was defending Trump's taxes before they came out because he just knows how to work it.
And a Newsmax columnist. Great to have you both, and thanks for coming on today. Jeff, let me start with you. How bad is this for George Santos as an individual, as a future congressman, and then overall for the GOP party?
Well, I think it's bad.
The GOP stands for Grand Old Party. You just said GOP Party. That's like when Chips, the television show, had a sequel called Chips Patrol. Chips comes from California Highway Patrol. So the sequel was California Highway Patrol. It was dumb. Same problem here. I'll move on.
Bad for him eventually here. I don't think he's going to be out of there before January 3rd when they have to vote for speaker.
Yeah. Why? Because McCarthy thinks he can count on him for his vote and then dust him? That's ethical.
I think he will be president accounted for.
Yes, ATM machine.
But one of the interesting things I think about this, and my colleague Scott McKay at the American Spectator has written about it this morning.
Uh-huh. This is going to be good.
Is what this says about the media in this sense. He told the right woke lies, if you will, and so nobody bothered to check him.
Hey, dude, it's your fucking party. There was no particular reason for even Democrats to question those elements of his identity. Perhaps, I would say some of the, did you actually work for Goldman Sachs shit, but since that wouldn't be considered a plus in Democratic circles, and it would in Republican circles, it would just kind of reinforce why they would vote for him in the first place. If he says, yes, more Republicans will vote for him. If he says no, maybe there's a chance that people go like, oh, I'll vote for a different guy, and an independent who's maybe, center left or center right might drift his way because he's gay and pudgy and therefore he's different, and so maybe we'll give this a try. And he didn't really work for Goldman Sachs. He worked for a company that was sidelined to it, so they didn't dig too deep in it. And again, wasn't really a reason to look into it on the Democratic side. The question is why Republicans didn't vet their dude.
Just like Elizabeth Warren, it tells the woke business about her identity. She's still there.
Yeah, but she didn't lie about any of her material qualifications for the job. And she's like 1/1600th Native American, whatever. And she actually believed what her family told her, and she took a DNA test thinking the number would be higher, and it was way lower. Who cares? She believed it. She wasn't lying. She had just been told that by her entire family. Ultimately, though, she worked where she said she worked. She did the job she said she did. She got a diploma from the university she said she went to, and she didn't lie about her parents dying in 9/11.
Joe Biden, on and on and on. You can go with this list. What is
Joe Biden ended his first presidential run because of this shit, learned his lesson, and moved forward. And again, these are the people who are mad that people are getting kicked off Twitter for 10-year-old tweets or getting canceled for 10-year-old tweets, and yet that's where they're going.
Does it say that if you say...
And also, again, if you want to argue that Biden shouldn't have been even allowed to run for president, why aren't you kicking this dude to the curb immediately right now for worse and more egregious lies?
The right kind of lies, no one's going to bother to check you. If, on the other hand,
on the Republican side,
he'd said, well, he was a right-wing fundamentalist, he belonged to Jerry Falwell's old church or what have you, you can bet they would have pounced on him.
What are you talking about? He was a MAGA Republican. None of them would have pounced on that he was lying about being a member of Jerry Falwell's fucking church.
I just find it curious as to how this is being handled.
Mark?
I find it curious how you think the answer to it is to call the Democrats out for not handling your fucking problems.
How much does Republicans' slim majority, when they take control of the House on Tuesday, play into the amount of pressure Santos is going to feel for stepping down? I mean, they have a very slim majority. They really need every vote.
So does Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, but I don't know what kind of a vote it is. See, I don't think this is really about George Santos, and that's a good point. It's not about George Santos per se. George Santos, as you said, lied about his ancestry, his career, his education. But
his job, where his mom died, his cancer, I think, is the newest one.
But I don't care. He's the latest liar on the stage. He's a young version of Joe Biden.
He's a Republican, MAGA Trump supporter. What are you talking about?
The thing is that he has an R after his name. If he were to have a D after his name, nobody would care because...
A resume in question. Attended Baruch College, attended NYU, worked for Goldman Sachs, worked for Citigroup, owns family farm, a developer organization, a real estate portfolio with 13 properties, none of which is true. Also, where does money coming from? That's, by the way, the one thing they're avoiding with all of this is that these are just embellishments of his resume. The reality is that he got weird financial dumps of money, one of which is linked to a Russian oligarch that's going to be under scrutiny, especially in his district and in New York State. That's going to get him in major trouble. That this stuff is going to... It's one of the reasons why they're hammering this stuff, so you almost forget about the campaign finance shit.
Is the new black. And...
Whoa! What?
After his name, nobody would care because lying is the new black.
Fuck you, dude.
And so... when you think about...
Yeah, I understand why you paused right after you said that. How do I dig my fucking way out of this one? Jesus Christ, CSL. This dude?
About what he represents, it's the deterioration of America.
America? It's your fucking party, dumb fuck. First of all, there's one of these motherfuckers. And this guy is so over the top. This isn't even like a single embellishment that any one individual campaign has done over the years. Bone spurs, or I'm a billionaire, whatever. This dude is it's a flood of bullshit. Everything about this asshole is turning out to be fake. And it's a Republican. Why is it the rest of the country's fault? Why is America now a population of liars and con artists because of this motherfucker in your party? How is that our fault?
Where lying has become the new norm, as I said.
No, you said it was the new black, which is... I would suggest in the Republican Party, black is not the norm. So you just lied. He just lied to us. He just said something and then said he said something else. That's a lie. Just for the record, in case anybody's keeping score.
On Twitter, pre-Elon Musk, if you told the truth, you got penalized. So,
like what? Hydroxychloroquine?
Americans have been conditioned to not only shut their mouths, but to accept lies.
We have? How? Hold on. Give me 1 second. Somebody rang my bell. Hang on 1 second. Hi, everybody. We got a package, and I had to sign for it. So, thank God I heard the... Summer's not here, so thank God I heard the bell. All right, here we go. I upgraded her phone for Christmas, so they mailed it to the house. All right, anyways, yay! All right, I'm back. Anyways, where were we? Oh yeah, these assholes. Somehow, the fact that Republicans elected a habitual liar, a pathological liar, is the fault of Democrats and the American people for being suckers and assholes.
And if you want to look at the root of the problem, and I blame Republicans for allowing this to happen.
Oh, good.
But if you want to solve any problem, you have to go to the root of it.
And the root is Elon Musk. Captain full of shit, liar. In defense of Elon Musk, I suppose, we do have Teslas that are available to be, autonomous taxis. And anybody who owns a Tesla in the audience is definitely making $30K a year with their auto Uber, right? That was supposed to start in 2017. It's way past then.
And the root of this problem is in the schools, from K through graduate school. These kids are taught lies all day long. Girls are boys, boys are girls.
The fuck? Hold on. So Santos was taught to be gay in school? I don't know. Jesus Christ. And that's why Republicans voted for a liar.
And because America has become more secular over time, it's become more immoral. You have parents taking their...
Wait a minute. America's immoral because you guys elected someone who was gay who may have been lying about their previous relationships with a woman that they were married to for a long time? The fuck?
Kids to drag queen story hours. And they're mutilating children.
Jesus Christ.
So what is acceptable today was not acceptable in the past. In 1987, Joe Biden was running for president again.
And he lost because he was caught plagiarizing elements of the speech and exaggerating his record. Right. He lost. He was not elected. He lost the primary. Democrats rejected him. Quite frankly, if he hadn't done those two things, he'd have been president. He would have beat Dukakis.
And he stole Neil Kinnock's speech, and then it was discovered, and he was criticized for that, and that derailed his speech. And Johnny...
Right. Yes, we Democrats learned a lesson. Don't do that. Apparently, Republicans were like, well, if you just told people to fuck off, why don't you just do that? Why don't they go, if they say you stole that, you go, no, I didn't, fuck you. That's what they voted for with Trump. These are the motherfuckers that elected Donald Trump.
Johnny Carson, on his monologue on The Tonight Show, even mocked Joe Biden for it.
Right. And he lost the primary because of it. He bowed out. That's how it's supposed to work. It doesn't mean people can't recover from stuff. It doesn't mean you can't learn your fucking lesson. I guess unless you're a Republican.
Today, nobody would care. Again, if Santos were a Democrat, this wouldn't even be news.
Well, yeah, it would, because why would we have elected a MAGA Trump fan?
I guess we don't even know where he went to school, really, to your point about blaming the schools.
He said K through 12. We presume he went to high school.
Look, Jeff, when it comes to earning America...
Again, this dude is just grasping at straws. They are trying so fucking hard to run interference for this dude.
America's trust, right? Americans' trust. They want to be able to understand that the politician who says they went to the school actually did, that they had...
Oh, really? Trump's star athlete status, the fact that he was top of his class at Wharton.
Have work experience working at a company that they actually worked there. What does this mean for Republicans going forward in selecting really ideal and honorable people to represent?
Yeah, no, that's not going to... You do realize you guys are pushing for Trump to run again. And DeSantis, if you can't have him. You're kidding, right?
Represent Americans.
Well, it means that they need to really investigate people who are asking them for their vote, to check up on them, to check up on their background and resume. We have all been around people running for office, and they say, I stand for X, or I went to school here or there. You need to check on this.
You think? Why wasn't this a concern before the primary, Jeff?
The media needs to check on this. Don't just give them a pass and let them go, or you will...
Really? So you're saying Trump's not qualified to run in 2024? Good.
Get into this kind of situation that we've seen. And Mark mentioned Joe Biden in 1987. I played a role in that. I was a big Bobby Kennedy fan when I was a kid, memorized all his speeches. In 1987, I was in the Reagan political office, heard him deliver a speech on C-SPAN, and I was getting to the end of his speeches, his sentences, before he was. So I picked up the phone, called the New York Times.
Oh, my God, that mustache.
Maureen Dowd was the reporter there at the time. 2 days later, they ran a front-page story. They quoted me. A few days after that, he was out of the race.
Right. That's how Democrats work, fucko. This is not working out for you. This is not supporting your premise.
Other incidents started to come to light. So you've got to be willing to speak up when you know something like this and say it and do something.
And meanwhile, the dude next to him is like, leave him in. Who gives a shit? You're watching HAL Sparks Mega Worldwide. Thanks. Hi. Welcome. How are you? I've only got a couple minutes left. Can we saw a piece of this next story a couple of days ago, but I'm enjoying it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Pillow, who's now sitting in his foyer again in Minneapolis. I guess it's so that if the FBI kicks his door down like they've never done, he can be right there and, open it up, let him in. Or he just likes the acoustics. But Mike Pillow is mad at Sean Hannity.
Okay,
Still.
Mike Lindell, I got limited time. I got the Hill newspaper saying that Carrie Lake is destroying her brand by continuing on the appellate thing. At the same time, Abe Hamadeh, they get a short check on some votes. He's now.
By the way, Carrie Lake is not destroying any of her legacy or her brand. She doesn't have one. She's a fucking lunatic. That ship has sailed. Nobody cares.
200 votes down, 2.5 million cast. They haven't let the other counties even check any of the ballots or in Maricopa County. It's completely rigged. And Katie Hobbs suppressed the information. You've got Axios coming up now and saying, hey, guess what? Lindell and Bannon are right. The order of battle is Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in 2020.
New election frontier shake-up 2024 map. The 24 election will be fought on a very different battlefield than the last one, with old reliable swing states no longer in play and new ones taking center stage. Yeah, that's the lesson that Trump learned the hard way. The assumption, he was like, if you win Florida and Ohio, you're in. Because that's how it used to be in the late 80s and early 90s.
24.
And they're not quoting these motherfuckers. They're not going Bannon and Lindell, they got it nailed or whatever. Like, this is just true.
Sir, you, more than any individual in this nation,
have wasted your money and your reputation and your business and what few brain cells you have left.
Have put more of your time, your effort, and about $40 million in money. And as we showed in our economic analysis, the worst total returns, $10 trillion in wealth of this audience wiped out $10 trillion.
No. The audience of the Bannon War Room does not have $10 trillion worth of net worth.
As shown by the Financial Times of London, the worst total returns on stocks and bonds in this nation since 1871 when they started keeping records. Elections have consequences.
But first of all, shifts by percentage because of the sheer number of available stocks and the volume of shares that are out there. Shut the fuck up.
Stolen elections have catastrophic consequences. Mike Lindell, are you backing off 1 inch that the 2020 election was stolen, and now in high relief, the 4 most controversial states in those elections are now the central battleground, and you understand why they got to steal it from Carrie Lake, sir?
They don't have to steal it, stupid. That's the point. That these are the states that will get the most attention because they can go either way. That's what a swing state is. After so much attention on Florida and Ohio in particular, there is no swing there anymore. The Republicans' strategy was, the perception is if you win those two, you win the rest of it, and it helped us get over the hump, especially with Jeb running things in Florida in Bush v. Gore. So if we just hang on to those and turn them red and focus our attention entirely on those states, eventually the assumption will be that because we took those 2 states, we must take the rest of the country. That did not end up being true. And it became even less true after Trump's 2016.
Absolutely. You're spot on. And they're spot on with those 4 states. Actually, you know, like I've said before, we have to melt down the electronic voting machines and turn them into prison bars.
They're made out of plastic largely. I don't know how good plastic prison bars are going to do you, dipshit. Why don't you just use straws?
But I will say, if you start with Arizona, we are so far ahead of the game.
We need to melt down Arizona and turn it into prison bars.
There, we have our preliminary injunction that to get rid of the machines there that's going to the Supreme Court.
No, it is not.
You have the Carrie Lake appeal that just came out today.
She doesn't appeal to anyone, especially with her filter turned off.
So that's a huge battle going on there, and it's not going to go away. We are going to win that battle.
No, you're not.
All the McCain Democrats and consultants are in the Hill newspaper saying she's got to stop or she's going to ruin her brand, Mike Lindell.
She doesn't have a brand, and except for she's an asshole and a sore loser. So this is totally on brand. This just means she's got no future in the party.
Well, they're wrong. They don't know how to brand. I think I know a little bit about branding. They're just dead wrong. They're 100% wrong.
Yes, he totally knows a lot about branding. The guy who had prime real estate in Walmart and ended up getting kicked out. You fucked up MyPillow as a brand.
They're the ones that, you know, you can add them to this cabal behind all this. This is, they are wrong. Not even 99%, 100% wrong.
It's what was the last 1%? What was the tipping point for you there?
Carrie Lake needs to keep going. She's a fighter, and we are going to win this.
Well, she's not a lover or a thinker, that's for sure.
We are going to win. Arizona is as red as can be, everybody.
Well, it's hot, but that's not the same thing. You can't go by temperature.
This is what they want you to.
Or as my sister would say when we were little, temperature.
It's what they want to tell you. Now,
Is there
let's move
any
up to
doubt?
Wisconsin.
Is there any doubt in your mind that Abe Hamaday, Blake
Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago.
Masters, and Kerry Lake won in Arizona, sir? Any doubt?
Well, of course not. He's a lunatic.
Not one bit, not one doubt. And Mark Fincham. Mark Fincham won too. They all won.
Everybody won. They're all winners. The losers are winners. The winners are the new losers. Up is down. Black is white. Lying is the new truth.
Won by landslides, and this was.
Yeah, of course. Don't have any proof of that, but just take my word for it. It's always worked out before.
It was all done. It was stolen, just like the 2020 election, just like a lot of them were stolen in the primaries.
Oh, so they weren't at all, because those weren't. So if it was like those,
just like in, and then in these midterms, and this was all happened all over our country. This country is so red right now that we're actually, that's why you see this article where they're going to give up on Texas and Florida and all these states. Well, they're redder than ever, redder than red, even more red than they think they're red.
Ohio, Ohio too.
Yeah, Ohio, yeah. But I want to go up to Wisconsin. I want to quick get through the four. You get up to Wisconsin, and they have more evidence in Wisconsin than any other state.
Yes, because 0 times 0 is 0.
The Supreme Court of Wisconsin said it was massive fraud. You just had a blocker up there by the name of Robin Voss who did more blocking, almost as bad as Brad Raffensperger from Georgia.
These Republicans who are blocking Republicans from getting their votes counted. I'm beginning to think it would be a bad idea to let Republicans run anything since they spend all their time infighting and stealing from each other. I don't get it. You're not selling me on the idea that they should run the most important country and the greatest country that's ever existed on the planet. Right? If Republicans are this shitty to each other, why the fuck would anybody want them in office? Republicans included? Are you stupid?
But in Wisconsin, remember, there's 3 million more people or their names on the voter rolls than there are registered voters that could legally register in the state of Wisconsin.
No, that's not even close to true. That's just gibberish.
7.4 million names, 4.1 million people that could even if they all registered, Steve. That's got to be cleaned up, and we're working very hard on the laws in Wisconsin. We're fighting there like you wouldn't believe. Now,
I don't believe you're actually fighting. I think you're making a lot of phone calls and showing up at like little fundraisery things and hanging out with other like-minded assholes, but you're not actually fighting because it's not actually going to change anything. And if you bothered to even look, if there was a real fight going on and you were in the ring, as it were, trading punches, you would recognize that you had nothing, that your block was shit, your hook was terrible, your leading foot was wobbly, and quite frankly, that a lot of the people you're talking about that were registered didn't vote because they were dead and had been for a while, and it just hadn't been broomed off because they hadn't been dead for 2 election cycles, or they hadn't had a relative go, please take their name off the voting rolls because they're dead, or they were military and serving overseas, which there's a lot of that in red states. So one of the reasons why these assholes freak out about a lot of red state voters that they think are voting from outside the state are both, A, if you have any money or any wherewithal, you're going to send your kid, if you're in a red state, to a blue state, more than likely, to a better college or university, or they're going to serve in the military and they're going to be overseas or at another base in another part of the country, but they're still going to vote from at home.
Let's switch over to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, they once again had more votes than voters. I mean,
no, they didn't.
I don't know what's wrong with Pennsylvania that they.
By the way, this asshole, specifically in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, he also makes the case that if you voted in the primary and you voted in the general, you're not one person who voted twice because you have a vote in a primary and you have a vote in a general. You're 2 people. You're 2 human beings. You are 2 separate human beings. That's what he really thinks. They look at who voted in the primary and who voted in the general, and they stack those numbers together. It's the dumbest fucking... We watched him do it on his Cyberama.
They can't see through their... I guess it's kind of like shame on Fox. If Fox would start reporting these things, the public would know about. You can't turn in your electors with more votes than voters. I mean...
Right, and they didn't.
This is just the most
Hold on,
I can't even
hold on,
believe
hang on.
Pennsylvania.
Whoa. All the stuff that's leaking out, your buddy, your bestie, Sean Hannity, is the first guy to say Mike Lindell is totally off. I love Mike Lindell. He makes a great pillow, but he's way off base on all this election stuff. Your response, sir?
Well, first of all, don't call him my bestie. It's about as opposite of bestie as you can get.
Wow, what's the opposite of bestie? It's been a long time since I've been in middle school.
Sean Hannity, over a year and a half ago when I was at his house, he told my gal, he said, don't you care about him? They're going to come after him. He needs to drop this election stuff. And I said...
So you're telling us he was being honest at his deposition when he said he didn't believe it, and he was trying to help you, but you're too fucking stupid.
Sean, you know the elections were stolen. He goes, yeah, but he can't report it on Fox. I said, you've done more damage.
I'm pretty sure that's not what he said.
To our country by not being able to report things.
I am not sheet pants. Watch it. Hal Sparks is Mike Pillow's bestie. Well, if your bestie is the person that tells you the uncomfortable truth, you might have something there, sheet pants.
About the vaccines or the machines or the elections for that matter. And Sean says, but just think if we weren't here at all. I said we'd be a lot better off, Sean, because if the people trust Fox News and it's not getting reported to people, it's shameful. Steve, when I go around this country and I see people that feel hopeless where this country's going, I ask them one question. You've been watching Fox. That's all you watch to get your information.
Well, they certainly aren't watching my show because I fill people with lots of hope. I'm just saying. My stoic optimism is good for what ails you. It'll pearl your teeth, curl your hair, and give your tongue a sleigh ride.
They all say yes. I said, you need to watch anything but Fox out there. You need to,
Hi, trolls. Welcome. I guess you're here because Mike Pillow told you to watch this? Gleam. Somebody put a gleam on this. Oh, I work alone. Never mind.
America's Voice, Frank's Speech. You need to Lindell TV. They need on all.
By the way, all the same shows.
All social media platforms where the word's getting out now. And, you get to then things like the nonsense that goes on in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is completely red. I don't care if they say, there's more Democrats that are registered than Republicans. Those are just names, Steve. They're fraudulent names.
Yes. Democratic voters don't count in Mike Pillow's America.
I am on the voter rolls, and they need to be cleaned up. Now you go down to Georgia, everybody, and Georgia, what an amazing ruling just 2 weeks ago that the Supreme Court in Georgia said that we have standing. The people have standing. Wow, what a concept. It's our election. You think we shouldn't have standing?
You're not a Georgia voter, fucknut.
Of course we should have standing.
Mike, we got to bounce. How do people get to you over?
How do they get to you? Like he's new on he pays for the fucking show, dum-dum. You're after he leaves, you're going to give a Mike Pillow promo code. How do they find you on social media? Shut the fuck up. Again, I don't stick around for the sales part. It's just aggravating. All right, I could go and go and go and go and go. There's so much extra stuff. There's no way, excuse me. But I've got radio in the morning. And Philip Bittner will be joining us tomorrow and Johnny Million. So 9 a.m. tomorrow at Pacific for the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. And I got to say, I have a whole new rule. 1 second. Right on. The Italian. Okay. Interesting. Summer just sent me a text. But I'm going to, tomorrow night, by the way, I am doing the Bruce Kulick roast here in Vegas, which is really fun. Bruce Kulick is Kiss's fourth guitar player and the longest serving one in years. He was there from basically the Animalized tour all the way till the reunion tour in the 90s. And, as a single stretch, he was in there. He was in the seat longer than anybody else. Anyways, I'm doing the roast tomorrow night. I'm very excited. And I love Bruce. He's a sweet guy. He's in Grand Funk Railroad now, and he tours with his own band, and it's going to be great. So, but I will do radio tomorrow, and Johnny Million will be on, and I will be making him jealous with that fact the entire time. And I'm going to bring something so that Bruce can sign it for Johnny. That will be my goal. I got to figure out what, though. The old standby is a pick guard. But I mean, it'd be nice to bring an LP. I have a fresh copy of Crazy Nights. That might be the one. Yeah, I'll have to think about it. I'll ask him tomorrow. That'll be one of the in the question period of the show tomorrow. What do you think HAL should have signed for you by Bruce Kulick will be the question. Anyways, much love to you guys. I will see you tomorrow. And for those of you, if I don't see you tomorrow at the radio show, Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the new year. And you guys are wonderful. Thanks so much for the support. Appreciate you guys tremendously. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for being members. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you, the blah. And Shadow Woman, thank you so much for all the gifted subs. It means a lot. Larry, thank you as well. And let's see. Where do I miss? I think I got everybody else. Robert Brunswick, thank you so much as well. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. Okay. Bye. Bye. See you later.